With the garden in the past years, we have been doing a temporary fencing with panels that you usually use in corrals, and then we just putting a little bit of like chicken wire at the bottom to keep rabbits out and dogs in. And now we are slowly starting to incorporate that into the yard, and it's going to be looking like that. So we've completed this piece already, 2 gates in the backyard, and then we'll continue down that direction. But now we're going to continue this line to the corner over by the Russian olives, and then we will go to the west over by the hydrant and then cut back over to that back fence line so that we have a little bit of a containment area for the foals. We've been doing this last couple years, panels, but now we're going to be putting in something more permanent and aesthetically pleasing. At our first day, we got a couple posts set, gate prepped, 1 rail readied, and then we're going to finish out the corner and run up this line tomorrow. We've moved on to the other project, which is apparent with the leftover corral poles. We've completed the garden fence more or less. There's a small gate that needs to be installed over there, and then a final one right here. However, for the most part, it took 11 days to do the cut across there and the sealing off of the garden, and we came all the way around. We went around this fire pit, and it goes back into the lilacs, and again we'll have that sealed off. We have a 20-foot long gate here so the tractor can access in the garden as needed. We have a 16-foot gate here, and then it goes across. This will, once the house is finished being sided, we'll have another fence put in there, but this goes all the way down another I believe it's a 5.5 to 6 foot gate right there. Actually, I take that back. I believe it's 10 foot. We did do a little bit bigger than we expected. So a 10-foot gate there, and then all the way down again, more or less the same distance and height across, but it does follow the topography of the earth, and that's why you see it bend down. The hardest part out of all of this was trying to keep it nice and level and straight with the height and still make it look good, because it does separate at the top and it's tight at the bottom, so we had to apply some collars. Other than that, it went all the way down here and it's completed for the moment. And now our next project for the gate, or for the fence, will be to complete this line all the way around by over the manure pile, the burn pile, and up to the chutes and around all of the equipment that's stored. It took us 11 days to finish here and start there, so it did it in about 2 or 3 spurts. We had competing priorities, especially with branding and everything, so we got like 3 days. It took us around the around the fire pit specifically, another 3 days to get down to the corner, up and back across, another about a half day to finish the back gate there, another half day to finish that little back gate in preparation for a real one to be applied. And then this took us another 4 days, I think. The digging was decently easy because we had the auger, but each post needs to be set according to a very specific height, and then you're trying to keep them in line at the same time. Once we do that, we apply the top rail, makes it the easiest thing to do, and then we set our railing underneath of it. But yeah, it looks good. So now on to more important projects. As I was editing the video for these rails, I realized we never captured any footage of us actually constructing the setup of the foundation of these rails. So I'm going to walk you through it really quick. What we kind of showed over by the shed was the necessary requirement for setting up these vertical posts. Each post is essentially set at roughly 63 inches off the ground. So from where the ground is at that level to the bottom of the cope, which is right here, we set it at about 63 inches. Sometimes it varied a little bit up to 65, but we set it so that you could cut it on both sides and cope it with 63 inches here. And it was about 64 and a half here with an inch and a half difference. That allowed the pipe to go across the top. Once we got all those set and they were in line, not only straight, but then the copes were in line and they went with the curvature of the ground, then we would set these posts on, usually at 30-foot increments. Now over here is a great example. It was a 40-foot line, so we ended up taking 10 foot and 30 foot and put them together and welded. Of course, anybody with a welding certificate or skill is going to tell you that was a horrible weld, and it absolutely is, but it works around here, so that's all we need. Once we got those all set, because the big thing was keeping this attached to the vertical posts and then keeping these all set. Once that structure is in place and you have essentially the foundational element that will hold up your panels, then we applied the panels. Usually we would set them on a corner, and on these corners we would smash them in to try and make sure that they're as even as possible. We would weld them and have everything set with a ratchet strap and blocking and bracing underneath, so it's the same relative height from the top and it's as uniform as possible. Then in the center we would tack weld on each rail, and then at the end we had inserts so that they would come together, and there's an insert inside of this. You can actually see here there's a little bit of an insert, and then it's been tack welded to this. And then once that's conjoined and combined, we then weld it to the post and continue all the way down. And then of course, once you get to the other end, it doesn't matter if it's 40 feet or if it's 120 feet. At the very end, we'll smash it down again and try and get it as even as possible. And that's how it ended. Now, we do have some finish work with caps to go on the ends, but for the most part, this is pretty much done. We just have the two gates left. So that's how we did it. 30 feet at a time, essentially. You set up your posts. Again, that takes about 3/4 of the time because you have to set it, get it in line, get the siding done, and then you set the top posts, get all of that structure set. And then after that, the panels go on very quickly. You're able to get, honestly, these welded faster than you can really put them up because you can tack them, get them set, move on to the next one, and then just keep going and then go back and finish it all up. The only place where we did not follow the landscape and we actually went as level as possible was actually here closest to the house and at the nearest point of the garden. Right here, it actually goes level, and we tried to do it that way just because of simple visual aesthetics. And so to do that, we did have to take this bottom rail and dig it down pretty deep. We're actually almost a full rail lower, you can see there. And then it starts to even back out at that post. But for the most part, this was pretty easy, other than as we got close to this corner where we did have to dig down and get it set so that everything was as level as possible. And of course, we will now eventually install a gate. We have our hinges already set. One there and one there. We will weld directly to it and it will attach to the house once we have siding complete.